Have you ever been close to someone for years, maybe a best friend, a partner, or even a family member, and then, out of nowhere, you wake up one day and realize you feel absolutely nothing for them? I'm not talking about being angry or having a big blowout fight. I'm talking about a total chilling indifference. You look at them, and it's like looking at a stranger you passed on the street. The emotional cord that used to vibrate with every text and every shared secret hasn't just frayed, it has completely vanished. To the outside world, this looks like coldness. People might call you heartless or say you're ghosting them because you're immature. But if you are someone who grew up as the invisible child or the black sheep of your family, you know that this isn't a choice. It's a survival mechanism. It's the moment your forgiveness filter finally hit its limit and your brain decided that to keep you safe, it had to delete the connection entirely. Today, on Mind Decode, we are going to explore the hidden psychology of why you suddenly lose interest in people. We're reframing this cold trait as a form of radical autonomy and explaining why your silent boundary is actually your greatest psychological shield. Welcome back to Mind Decode. If you've spent your life feeling like an outsider, or if you've been told you're too much or too sensitive when you were actually just observing the world with high resolution, you are in the right place. We don't do surface level advice here. We break down the real science of the unseen, brain glitches, traumatic intelligence, and why your weird habits are actually your greatest strengths. Today's deep dive is for the survivors. It's for the ones who were raised by Gen X parents, or had to raise themselves because the adults in the room were too distracted or unreliable. We are decoding the specific moment when a person who endures life silently finally decides they are done. We're going deep into the mechanics of the silent boundary and why you walk away without needing closure. We have a massive amount of psychological value to cover, analyzing everything from your childhood wiring to your adult strength. So let's jump straight into the first reason why your brain suddenly shuts the door on a relationship. The first pillar of this sudden loss of interest is what we call the forgiveness filter. We've talked before about the psychology of people who forgive but never forget. Society tells us that forgive and forget is the only way to be a good person. But for someone with traumatic intelligence, forgetting is a security risk. Think of your brain as a silent archivist. Every time someone lies to you, every time they use manipulative humor to put you down in front of a group, or every time they don't prioritize you, your brain files that away as a data point. Because you are a deep thinker, you don't react to every single slight. You forgive. You keep the peace. You smile and say, "It's fine." But while you are saying, "It's fine," your forgiveness filter is reaching its maximum capacity. You aren't actually letting it go. You are just deferring the reaction. Then, one day, a tiny, insignificant thing happens. Maybe they're 5 minutes late again, or they make a dismissive comment about a hobby you love. That tiny event is the final drop that overflows the bucket. Your brain looks at the mountain of data points it has collected over the years and says, "Enough." The filter shuts down. In that second, all the affection you had for them is drained away because the risk of staying connected has finally outweighed the reward. You aren't being cold. You are finally acting on the truth your brain has been collecting for years. The second reason this happens is rooted in the history of the invisible child. The invisible child is the one who is overlooked, maybe the middle child, or the one who is too good to cause problems. So they were left to their own devices. If this was you, you learned that your safety depended on your ability to read the room and sense the energy of the adults around you before they even spoke. As an adult, this turns into a rare trait where you can sense when a mask is slipping. You see the hidden intentions behind a gift or the subtle way a friend tries to make you feel unwanted just to boost their own ego. Because you spent your childhood observing from the background, your pattern recognition is set to high definition. You lose interest suddenly because you've seen the end of the movie before it even finishes. You see the pattern of their behavior and you realize that even though they are apologizing now, they are going to do the exact same thing 3 months from now. Your brain, in its effort to conserve your energy, decides to skip the middle part of the drama and go straight to the exit. You don't lose interest in the person, you lose interest in the loop. You are choosing to walk away silently because you already know that talking about it won't change the underlying pattern. Now, let's talk about the label of coldness. When you walk away from a relationship without a big fight, people think you're being heartless. But what you're actually practicing is radical autonomy. If you are someone who doesn't need anyone, you are often perceived as society's biggest threat. Why? Because you can't be controlled through the fear of being alone. Most people stay in toxic or draining relationships because they are terrified of the silence that follows a breakup. They need the social filler and the constant reaching out to feel valid. But a rare mind, especially one that has endured a lot, knows that silence is a sanctuary. You've learned how to comfort yourself since you were a kid. When you lose interest, it's a sign that your radical autonomy has kicked in. You've realized that you would rather be alone, with no phone, no noise, and no distractions, than be in the presence of someone who drains your peace. Your indifference isn't meant to hurt them, it's meant to protect you. It's the ultimate expression of boundary architecture. You are deciding that your energy is a unique portfolio, and you are no longer investing in a company that is going bankrupt. You are reclaiming your voice by choosing not to use it on someone who has proven they don't listen. The fourth point is the one that confuses people the most: the lack of a need for closure. Society tells us that we owe it to them to explain why we're leaving. We're told that we need to have a final talk to move on. But if you have survival intelligence, you know that closure is often just another trap for manipulation. Many of you have realized that once you realize nobody cares, you win. You spent years explaining yourself and being misunderstood, and you're simply tired of the performance. You've reached a level of high mindset where you understand that your reasons are for you, not for them. When you suddenly lose interest, you don't feel the need to argue or explain, because you've already done the internal work. You've already had the trial in your 3 a.m. brain. You've analyzed the evidence, and the verdict is in. Explaining it to the other person would just lead to more manipulative humor, more gaslighting, and more pretending you're fine. But walking away silently, you are denying them the emotional supply they need to keep the conflict alive. You are prioritizing your own psychological safety over their need for an explanation. You are moving from being too available to being impossible to manipulate. Let's look at the specific experience of the black sheep of the family. If you were the black sheep, you were the one who saw the family's secrets, the one who didn't fit the mold, and the one who was often scapegoated for the family's problems. You grew up in an environment where you had to survive alone, which means you developed an unbreakable internal core. The black sheep doesn't just lose interest, they hit a done point. It's like a light switch. You can spend years being the people pleaser, trying to fix the family dynamics and carrying everything alone. But because you are a deep thinker, you eventually reach a logical conclusion that the situation is irredeemable. When a black sheep reaches the done point, they often cut everyone off or stop reaching out entirely. This isn't a tantrum. It's a calculated decision based on the fact that your rare traits are being stifled by people who only want you to be a master of one version of yourself. You realize that your unique portfolio of personality traits is too valuable to be wasted on people who treat you like a normal person with normal limits. You lose interest because you've finally outgrown the container they tried to keep you in. You are moving from a state of enduring life silently to a state of power. Finally, we have to address the fact that your ability to lose interest is actually a sign of high-level emotional self-regulation. Most people are victims of their emotions. They are too available and get hurt too easily because they haven't built an internal, safe harbor. But you've been your own protector for a long time. You've learned the psychology of people who comfort themselves. This means that when a relationship becomes toxic or one-sided, your brain doesn't panic. It doesn't scream for the other person to stay. Instead, it quietly updates its security protocols. Your silent boundary is a rare gift. It allows you to protect your peace without cutting everyone off in a messy, dramatic way. You just quietly move them to the outer circle of your life. You stop sharing your 7 things you should keep private with them. You stop prioritizing their needs over your own. This isn't weakness or apathy. It is strategic silence. It is the signature of a mind that has gone through too much and emerged with the rarest kind of strength. If you've ever felt a wave of guilt because you stopped caring about someone who didn't deserve your energy, I want you to stop apologizing. You aren't cold. You are calibrated. You are a person who values relational depth over social noise, and your brain is simply doing its job by filtering out the people who don't belong in your small circle of friends. You are the architect of your own peace. Whether you are the invisible child reclaiming your presence, or the black sheep finally walking away from the flock, your silent boundary is your power. You aren't losing interest in people, you are gaining interest in yourself and the life you are meant to build with your unique portfolio of rare traits. If this video helped you decode that strange feeling of sudden indifference, I want to hear your story. Have you ever hit that done point? Which of the pillars we talked about today resonated with you the most? Was it the forgiveness filter or the radical autonomy? I read every single comment because Mind Decode is a circle for the deep thinkers, the observers, and the survivors who are finally ready to be seen on their own terms. If you want to keep exploring the hidden psychology behind your weird habits, like why you replay the same song or why you hate being told what to do, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications. We are doing these long-form deep dives because you deserve a script for your success, not just a 2-minute summary. Thanks for being part of the circle. I'll see you in the next one.